Hello, 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 and welcome back to an all-new episode here on the Survivor podcast. As always, my name is Darius Cook. I am your resident Survivor nerd and host, and today I am joined by the creator and host of Survivor Orlando. I am joined by Jake Radford. What's going on, Jake? How you doing?
Darius, I'm doing well. It is really good to be here to talk about the awesome Survivor 50 season that we've all been witness to. I've really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get into it with you.
Yeah, this is my first time checking in with you on Survivor 50. The last time we spoke was a few weeks after season 49, and I know you've been watching it very closely. Before we dive into episode 11, which is what we're here to talk about today, what are your thoughts on the season as a whole, season 50?
Yeah, I have really enjoyed it. I think that it has been a roller coaster. It's been difficult to watch some of our favorite players from over the years be eliminated. Some in, great fashion, some in less so, looking at you, Jimmy Fallon. Um, but I think after a new era that many have accused of being too samey same from season to season. Uh, I think we were at a place where Survivor 50 needed to take some big swings. And anytime you take big swings, like some are going to connect, some are going to potentially not work out quite as well. And I think that's what we've seen in this season. I think we've seen some like really fun twists, and some have been great. Some hopefully we'll never see again. But the players, pretty much every last one of them, have all stepped up and have created like some really fun interactions and one that I know we'll talk about for years to come. So I've really enjoyed it. Can't wait to talk about this episode, which I think has a lot of interesting twists and character interactions as well.
Oh yeah, the season as a whole has been a season of high highs and some low lows. I will say that is not unique to this episode either. I think that there are some great things that we'll talk about and some things that didn't make me necessarily happy. But yeah, you're right. No one can accuse season 50 of not throwing stuff at the wall, right? Like every episode, they are trying multiple things. They are doing everything in their power to make it interesting, at least. And I appreciate that they are at least making it an active season, right? They're throwing a lot of new twists and stuff at the wall. I don't love everything, but this cast has shown up, and I agree. This has been a really fun season to watch, especially with the online community and making content and stuff. It's been quite a joy, I will say. But yes, as much fun as I was having, I don't know if I had as much fun as Rick Devens at the top of this episode. He was doing his happy dance, skipping all around camp at the top of this episode, celebrating his win from last episode. How are you feeling about Rick Devens, specifically after the last couple episodes that we've seen with him? They've been quite explosive. What are you feeling on the Devens train?
And it's fun to see Rick Devens do Rick Devens things, right? Like he coming into this season. I mean, we've kind of heard from his interviews that he was an alternate coming into this season, and he wasn't originally a part of the cast until very late in the game. That blows my mind, right? Like, just take look at like 30 minutes of this season, and you'll see why Rick Devens should have been among the very first people that Survivor should call for any season that, is as big as this. Rick Devens has been super fun from his idol shenanigans to his a fun alliance with Emily Flippin to like his connection with Christian from the very beginning. I have loved Rick Devens this season. I am also an Edge of Extinction apologist.
Okay.
I think it is a much better season than a lot of people give it credit for. And it's in large part due to how much I like Rick Devens and his antics. So I've been really happy with what I've seen out of Rick. Hopefully he can keep it going. It's going to be an uphill battle for him after episode 11, I think. But any amount of time spent with Rick Devens from here on out, in my opinion, is just gravy.
I actually wasn't huge on Rick Devens at the start of the season. I thought he was kind of annoying at the start, to be honest. But my point of view on him could not have been more turned around. I'm a Joe hater and I'm a Rick Devens lover, and I think I'm grateful for him being on the season because he is showing the new era how you should play, okay? We've had a lot of conservative play, in my opinion, in the new era, a lot of waiting to make my big move. But Rick Devens and, a little bit of Emily to a certain degree as well this season are playing so bold. And it's such a breath of fresh air because I feel like we really haven't gotten this energy much in the new era. Rizzo's someone who brings this energy a little bit, but it's not the same level of, fully leaned in. And seeing Rick Devens do it on the season is such a joy. And honestly, season 50 needs Rick Devens. Like, I don't know where we'd be in the narrative, how exciting things would be if Rick Devens wasn't on the beach during the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of like people carrying out like big antics and playing boldly, I think you typically see that more with returning seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Players that kind of know what the TV audience is looking for and don't have as much to lose, perhaps, by like going out early due to a bold move. Is the way that I see it. We obviously haven't had any returning seasons in the new era up to this point. So those players that do come out and play boldly and make like very non-conservative decisions in their gameplay their first time playing are so rare. I mean, Rick Devens, you pointed out Rizzo are like great examples of people who we saw do that in their first season. But I mean, even over the course of like Survivor, the amount of players who do that in their first season are few and far between, and they're the ones that we really talk about as like the pinnacles in terms of characters of Survivor. Rick Devens, certainly one of them for me. Now, you talked about Joe, and you kind of hate on Joe a little bit. I agree, obviously. Joe, Joe is an interesting one, though. I was very out on his casting for season 50. I felt I did not need to see more Joe than what we saw in 48. I do want to acknowledge, though, that I think he's been a really interesting foil to the other castaways who are trying to play such a bold and subversive game. And they almost have to like play around this unmovable obstacle that is Joe, right? And it's provided some like really interesting moments. Everything from, was it earlier in the season where like Christian is rocking him in the hammock to like,
Yeah.
like if everyone is playing like Christian is trying to play this season, you don't have those moments, right? Like I think you need a Joe sometimes to give other players like a tough obstacle to bounce off of, and I think he's done a good job of that this season in a weird way. It's
That's
my
an
my
interesting perspective because I've been kind of on the side of the Tiffany's and Jonathan's who are complaining about Joe, saying, you can't really play with him, right? You have to work around him. And that has been, I've adopted that mindset about him in general. But now I'm kind of thinking, after what you said, I'm thinking Joe is almost like a twist that they're introducing into the game. You could bring a Joe, throw him into any cast in the future, and it's something that the castaways have to work around in order to get done what they need to get done, right? This episode, him literally not being able to conceive of someone he's not working with being on the same boat as him. We'll maybe get into that a little bit more when we talk about the tribe split that ended up happening. But they're trying to make a move with Joe, and there's only 5 people, and he can't even keep up with these because he's so fixed into the one way track of playing. It's frustrating to see, but I will say it does provide some fun mess arounds, right? The fact that you have to get extra creative to work around the speed bump that's Joe in order to get a vote through. It is hilarious, I will say. As much as I'm not rooting for Joe, I do think that Joe ultimately was a good inclusion into the cast.
I agree, and it's created a lot of really funny moments as we've talked about. But it also makes people like Jonathan seem like huge movers and shakers in the strategic gameplay of Survivor 50, right? Like compared to Joe. I mean, Jonathan, he's not a part of the Honor and Integrity Alliance no more, right? Like, I mean, he is wheeling and dealing and scheming. I'm sure we'll get into Jonathan, a player that amongst the um, Survivor fan base at large on Reddit and Twitter and all of the above, like maybe not the most popular player, sure. Um, I do want to acknowledge, I think he has played a pretty good game so far. Is it a winning game? I'm not sure, but I mean, it's definitely one that's given me more respect, at least for his strategic chops in the game. We'll see how far it gets him.
Yeah, I do think Jonathan's playing a strong game, and this episode in particular highlighted a lot of the good things that Jonathan is incorporating in this game. So, before we talk more about Jonathan, we get this moment at the challenge. Before Jonathan gets all the power, for a minute there, it looks like Tiffany is going to get all the power. So, this is the challenge where they're on the barge. Everyone has a triangle floating construct that they have to balance on. And, when this was playing out, I pointed out in the moment that it looks like Tiffany had 2 feet on the barge still while other people were already falling into the water. I pointed it out to my wife. I was like, that seems ridiculous. And I got to say, I was very impressed that production stepped in and reversed the decision and kind of took away the W from Tiffany. Did you have any thoughts about this like controversy, this challenge mix up that happened during this episode?
I've been in the place of the hosts that did not
Mm.
see something happen and then have to go to, my camera crew to correct me on a challenge that I might have called incorrectly. It's tough in the moment. I'm impressed that you saw it, even just on TV, that Tiffany hadn't lifted her leg. I'm gonna point out, I think I've seen like some tweets that seem to accuse like Tiffany of being like malicious in this and trying to cheat. I don't think that's the case at all. Like I think it's just so quick and difficult to balance out there. Um, I thought it was a really interesting moment. I have no surprise whatsoever that Survivor production corrected it. Um, it's interesting to think about the alternate reality, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is a huge, huge advantage for the eventual winner, Jonathan. And if that goes to Tiffany instead, do any of the tribal councils play out differently? I don't know that that's the case, but it is an interesting thought experiment for sure. Um, I I'm sure we'll get into like this twist as a whole. I thought it was really interesting. Like, what was your impression of this? What did they call it? Do you remember
the
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 name?
broker but the
The
brokerage advantage.
power
Yes, the
broker
power
thing.
broker advantage.
Yeah,
I if one thing is an airball this season for Survivor 50, it's been some of the branding on some of these twists. I
yeah.
mean, I think that they're kind of ridiculous, but yeah, I do have a lot of thoughts on the brokerage advantage. I do want to say on this challenge, I just want to point out that it's unfortunate that it's such a powerful, leading to the power brokerage advantage. It's such a powerful tool and moment in the game, and to have it be this weird controversial challenge is a little bit disappointing. And in my opinion, they need to chalk this challenge. They show us a flashback to the first time they did this challenge when the waves were choppy and everyone was on there for like 5 seconds. It was barely a challenge that Jonathan won. So that being your baseline, and now we get to this, and clearly it's a little bit hard to enforce this moment where it's a live transition. You got to go from 2 feet to 1 feet. It's just not clean enough of a challenge to really have be a fair one, in my opinion. And this is a rarity for Survivor. I will say it's very rare that I can point at something and feel like it's unfair. So I'll give them some credit in that. But from a game design, cool on paper, bad in execution. I don't want to see this challenge again.
That's interesting. I like this challenge personally. I think that the new era in the 26-day game, especially in season 50 with how many vote outs are needed, you run into a scenario where I think the show wants endurance challenges. I think the players like endurance challenges, and I know that the fans like endurance challenges, but the endurance challenges that you can do um, are few and far between that you can reliably have end in a timely fashion, right? Like you can't have an endurance challenge like the famous one at the end of Palau, right? That lasts for X amount of hours, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to have, in this case, two tribal councils that night, right? For like, you don't have buffer room in terms of 39 days to spread eliminations across anymore, right? Like, you got to eliminate a lot of players in quickly. And so you want to have endurance challenges and you want to have ones that reliably can be finished quickly. So you give time for the players to go back to the beach, to strategize, and still have the tribal councils that night. So it puts production in an interesting position. I think this challenge is one that works. Um, Sometimes better than others, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, like they got the decision right, and that's maybe all that matters.
This is why we have Jake Radford on the podcast. You know, it's because he's produced Survivor Orlando. He's got that different perspective that he's coming in with. So I appreciate that defense of the challenge. That is a fair thing to include.
I won't defend Survivor on everything, but yeah, some things I think they get right. And if you're gonna have a 26-day game, you do need to make the concessions somewhere. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Credit where credit is due. Moving on a little bit, the power broker advantage, which you brought up. I like this a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Do I love splitting up the tribes? Generally speaking, no. That's always a red flag for me. Going from 9 people vote to a 5 person vote and a 5 person vote, it does limit options. But I thought, having Jonathan walk between the two beaches, I thought was really interesting, and I want to see this in the future, to be honest, because I feel like we're just scratching the surface on the type of dynamics and strategizing that you could create around this kind of setup, having someone go between the two beaches. What did you think overall of this kind of twist?
Yeah, so I agree in general. Like, I'm not a fan of split tribals post-merge. I think like you build up to where you want to see these large tribal councils and all of the dynamics at play. I know I haven't talked about this on this podcast for Survivor 50, but I do. You have 24 players, right? And in 26 days, like you need to have nights with multiple eliminations, right? Like, but one thing that I did not expect, but I'm happy that I feel Survivor got right, is moving these double eliminations to later in the game, right? We had unlike Winners at War, which I won't spoil for anybody who hasn't seen it. But you had scenarios where some really, really popular players
Mm.
went out in double tribal councils so early in the season. And yeah, we had Edge of Extinction, but like you didn't get a whole lot of time to like watch them in the game, right? So kind of like as you were watching the pre-merge of Survivor 50, I'm like, ah, thank goodness we got like a lot of time with a lot of like the really great players that we know and love. And like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know like a massacre is coming and there's going to be like really controversial ways that like we're going to have to see a lot of people get eliminated really quickly. But like, thank goodness we're getting like a bunch of episodes with a lot of our favorites. I think they got that right.
That's interesting. That's actually not something I've really heard anyone bring up. These weeks covering Survivor content, and I think that is an astute point. I mean, everyone was, early on in the season, we're going, when are we getting to these double boots, right? Like, it is kind of this ominous threat because we're all doing the math, trying to figure out how is this going to work out. Of course, I had wishful thinking that they were going to do a surprise extra long season. Of course, that didn't end up happening. But yeah, you're right. Now that we have more time to sit with these casting characters, it feels a little bit better when we do get to the double boots or these twists that otherwise feel like a cheat. I haven't felt, there's a little bit here and there, but overall, I have felt that the players haven't been too cheated overall. Sans Genevieve, of course. I think that's the biggest crime, the biggest casualty of the season. That's right.
Yeah, hey, Genevieve, okay, we'll get to this here, but whenever we peer pressure Genevieve to come back on another season, she better get that Billie Eilish boomerang idol that she is duly deserved of
Yeah.
after tonight, after the elimination in this last episode.
That should be an asterisk. They should be able to boomerang from the grave. If Genevieve plays again, let that same idol that Ozzy went out with boomerang back to her. I like that.
Was it on the parchment? I didn't see it not there, right? Like,
Let's
what-
ask Billie Eilish. What does she have to say about it?
she's not watching this season. You see that interview with her? I don't even
Yes, yes. It was the
know
most
if she
disappointing thing
knows.
ever.
That was frustrating. Anyways, moving on.
Yes, moving on from Amy Poehler and Billie Eilish poo-pooing season 50 of Survivor. Okay, well, moving on from the power broker advantage a little bit, the other headline here is that they did split the tribes up, right? So on one side, we have Sari, Tiffany, Emily, and Rick Devens. And then on the other side, we have Ozzy, Aubrey, Joe, and Rizzo. And then, of course, we have Jonathan moving between the two. And what I really want to highlight here and pick your brain about is the two drastic ways that we see people handle this situation. And of course, I'm going to be highlighting Emily and Ozzy, right? On one side, we see Emily getting right to work, cooking up one of the coolest schemes that I've actually seen, maybe in Survivor history. I mean, the concept that she came up with is such an interesting one. It makes me think of the, what was it, the Italy Alliance? What was the Italian job that they did on 47? I can't remember
It
the name.
was Operation Italy, my guess,
Operation
because
Italy.
they did not
Yes.
have the rights to the Italian job. But
Yes, that's right. That's right. It was making me think of that a little bit. Obviously, it didn't ultimately work out, but I left feeling like Emily had a great episode and a great showcase of what she can do strategically. Meanwhile, Ozzy showed up to the beach riding on a high and immediately shoots himself in the foot and just drags himself to the bottom. If we could compare and contrast these two, let me know your reaction. How are you feeling about how Emily handled this versus how Ozzy handled this tribe split?
I was really impressed with Emily. I'm always impressed with Emily when she's not like just spilling the beans on everything, like which is super fun. Like that was just like her game this season was just like her
That was her
spilling
strategy.
information all the time. But it was hilarious and it was fun and she like kind of made it work for her in her own like way. I will always love watching Emily flip and play Survivor. I hope this isn't the last time. And I thought that her idea here was a really solid one. Like, and I don't, I guess I haven't run the numbers to like verify this, but like if Suri doesn't play her extra vote, I think it works,
It
right?
works. I've done the numbers. If Sari
Yeah.
does not play her extra vote, Sari goes home. Emily has the biggest move of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd seen an exit interview where she had like kind of done the calculations, I guess, on her end to say like probably playing the shot in the dark like might be the better decision in this case for her. But is that a decision that like is exciting for the season and two would like actually get her win equity at the end of the day? And she elected to make the probably less mathematically possible decision, and it didn't work out for her. But man, it would have been awesome had it done so.
That's
Um,
shocking to hear. If I can chime in here really quick,
yeah,
I haven't had a chance to check out Emily's exit press, but data analyst Emily Flippin is going against the statistical right decision for the big move. I love it. She has come such a long way. I feel like that's like a full character arc journey from her start on her first season.
yeah. Emily is great. I really again liked her game this season. Um, and then let's go to Ozzy. Oh, sweet Ozzy. I. I mean, it was like watching a car crash in slow motion, right? I'm sure I'm not the first person that said that, but man, he has been. Let's go back here for a second. Like, I think I, similar to Joe, I guess, was pretty out on Ozzy's casting originally. After what we had seen in Game Changers, like, I felt like I didn't need to see Ozzy, what, 5.0.
Right.
He completely shifted my thought process there. I think this is been, one of the best versions of Ozzy that we've seen as a character, if not the best. And I have so enjoyed his arc over the course of this season and his like great interactions with Suri. I thought his confessional at the beginning of this episode about his birth father and his kind of regrets of how he had handled some of the things that he had said on his first season. I mean, it was a really like poignant, beautiful moment. And I have so appreciated seeing that side of Ozzy and his game throughout this season. But I do
But
find it hilarious that as soon as he separated from Suri, this happened earlier in the season too, where Suri was on exile for
hmm
like
hmm
2 hours,
Yeah,
and
2 hours.
is like suddenly like making terrible decisions that he has to backtrack as soon as Cerie's back. And then here we are again. He is just helpless without Cerie there to handhold him. It was really sad. I mean, I don't know. I was devastated for him, but he ultimately like did it to himself. And what was your opinion of Ozzy throughout this episode?
Yeah, and I mean, I will say Ozzy won me back over from episode one of the season. He was easily maybe not the, but one of the most entertaining people to watch this season. Such an active season, and what's really most satisfying about Ozzy on 50 is that you see the culmination of all his seasons leading up to this version of himself. Whereas I don't think you get that with Colby, right? Colby has his own emotional journey. Coach is just the same coach that we've seen all this time. Cerie just, ages like fine wine, but she just is better and just somehow keeps getting better. But Ozzy, I feel like he really was taking all the lessons he learned and putting it into his game this season. And I'll give it to him. He recognizes his shortcomings because all season long he's taking Cerie's advice. He's listening to what she has to say. And I don't know that Ozzy of past was always doing that. He'll hear people out, but he will still go with his gut, and his gut gets him to a lot of trouble a lot of times. Now, of course, out of his hands, he couldn't help but being separated from Cerie this episode. And like you said, he just completely fumbles his cards. And previous to this, I'll be honest, I thought this was Ozzy's game to lose at this point. I thought no way people are going to let Cerie get to the end. He's close to breaking this record from Boston Rob. Like, I was really starting to board the Ozzy hype train. And apparently Ozzy was too, because he just started telling Aubrey the same thing that I was telling myself. Yeah, it was sad to see Ozzy go, but it's completely his fault. Like, he literally was probably going to be safe if he went and said nothing this episode, or just played his idol, of course. But he really set himself up for failure the second he got onto the beach.
Yeah, I would be interested to see like how it would have shook out had he not had those conversations with Aubrey, right? Like would he have still been a target? Maybe. I don't
Probably to some
know.
extent.
Probably to some extent, yeah, exactly, right? Like are they going to take the quote unquote easy route with Aubrey still? It's quite possible. Definitely like that was his like a nail in the coffin moment with Aubrey, and it didn't serve his game at all, right? Like why are you trying to do jury management at what final nine? I I don't know. It was not a good move at all from Ozzy's part. I think that's clear. The worst part, though, was just not playing the idol. Like, your name has been tossed around in previous votes. You know that you are one of, if not the biggest target left on the board, right? Like, and you're at a tribe with 5 people, only 4 of which are eligible to be voted for. I cannot see a world where I'm in that situation and don't play my idol. It's easy to say from, this side of the screen, right? But man, what was he thinking? And I'm sure he says the same thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what was I thinking?
Hmm.
Like, and we saw it in his exit, right? It was really emotional. I think one of like the most emotional tribal council exits that I can remember.
Jake, can I tell
And
you, I cried so much this episode. I don't know why
yeah,
everything was getting me, but I was in tears from the second we opened to Ozzy talking about his dad all the way to his exit. I was in shambles.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if I cried, but I was emotional also, right? Like I was definitely devastated for Ozzy. But I think we left that tribal with a lot of interesting questions too, right? Ozzy was not on an island, right? He had someone that he was playing very close to throughout most of the game, Rizzo,
Hmm.
there who knew the plan, who was going along with the plan instead of telling Ozzy to play his idol. Darius, did Rizzo make the right decision in this tribal council?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of layers that went into this, especially starting with Ozzy shooting himself in the foot. But ultimately, this comes down to Rizzo. You know, Rizzo had the power to do something here, and this will be a question that we will not be able to answer until the end of the season, truly, because I can make an argument in both ways. Like, yes, would it have benefited Rizzo's game to lock in his three with Ozzy and Sari in the short term? Absolutely. Is Rizzo have a chance in hell of beating Ozzy or Sari at the final tribal at this point? Absolutely not. So if I'm Rizzo and I'm seeing him, shoot his own game in the foot, I could see the allure to let him, get got, and let me be Sari's number one. Let me skate by and get some of these big names out of the way. I definitely see that temptation. It's so funny the moment when Rizzo correctly identifies what Sari wants him to do. He goes, I think Sari would want me to tell Ozzy so he could play his idol, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. And I kind of like it for him because now he's going to go back to Sari. And I don't think that Sari really has a leg to stand to be mad at him, right? She approved this plan with Jonathan. The way she was talking to Jonathan, she was okay with it. So what Rizzo's supposed to see beyond that? Now he did, but I don't think that Sari necessarily can expect him to, especially when Aubrey gets back and tells her how much Ozzy was telling them about, him and Sari going all the way to the end. I don't think that this comes back in a bad way on Rizzo, at least from Sari's perspective.
Well, it does create a scenario in which Suri needs Rizzo, right? Like it was
Yeah.
arguable if she did before, right? And it seems like Tiffany is working very closely with her at this point. But outside of Rizzo, like who else is going to want to work with Suri like that much longer, right? Like I think Rizzo kind of clocked that and wants to make sure that there's not a scenario where he's going to the late stage of the game with people that he knows for sure will beat him in an immunity challenge, which is most of the cast, but it's definitely Ozzy, right? Like
Yes,
for
yes.
um so and Ozzy, to your point, I mean, like is going to beat him in a final tribal council, right? Very clearly.
Oh yeah.
Ozzy would win. Ozzy wouldn't beat Suri, but is the plan to really take Suri to the final three? If I'm Rizzo, it's I would assume no, right? I mean, Suri makes it to the end, she wins, in my opinion. So, um, yeah, it's interesting. I do think Rizzo made the right decision, but I may eat those words next episode.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the short term, it feels good for Rizzo. In the long term, we'll just have to wait and see. It's funny because, as we're talking about this and I'm thinking about Rizzo's chances at the end, on one hand, it's so hard for me to imagine what a winning Final Three looks like for Rizzo because I can't necessarily point to what his resume is. At the same time, from a viewer perspective, I feel like Rizzo has played a phenomenal game this season. It hasn't been quite out there, and I don't know that this jury would possibly award Rizzo the win. But from where I'm sitting, he's playing a winning game. I just think that the legacy and kind of story around other people here, especially because no one saw his 49, so you have nothing to draw off of other than what they've seen. I don't think Rizzo has a chance in the final three, almost against anyone. Like even if it's Tiffany and Jonathan, do you think Rizzo has a chance?
maybe, right? Like I think in that final three combination, it a lot comes down to what happens at final tribal council, right? And I think if I'm Rizzo, like that's what I'm banking on, that I can outtalk and outmaneuver at final tribal council and just try to pick up enough votes that way. Because to your point, as it stands right now, I agree. I don't think this jury would award Rizzo the respect that he's probably deserved of. Um, in terms of like a final three combination that Rizzo has the best shot in, I think it's one where Joe is there.
Yeah.
Right. And then, yeah, maybe Jonathan, right? Because maybe Joe and Jonathan split some of the honor and integrity
Hmm.
folks that are, the honor and integrity. I don't want to lump the
What about
Zoom.
what about Aubrey, Joe, Rizzo? Is that his best combination? Hard to say, huh?
It's hard to say, right? Yeah, it's very possible, right? I do think Aubrey is, at least from like the viewer's perspective, who knows what players are seeing out on the island, but Um, she's really coming into her own in the late stage of the game,
Hmm.
which is what I think a lot of people expected from Aubrey. She has done a good job kind of playing under the radar up to this point, and is coming on strong at the right time. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I do think like yeah, probably that's the best final three scenario for Rizzo, but we'll have to see how it shakes out.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the episode here, Jake, but I have a few locked and loaded questions that I want to get from your perspective. And the first one is about Suri. You know, a lot of people, obviously, a shot was taken at Suri today, but that's because of the split. Largely, I think that's because of the opportunity that Emily had in front of her. But up to this point, people have not been looking at Suri. And I'm curious, what do you attribute it to? Is it that people are banking on Final Four fire making, that she'll go out there? Or is it that she's just so powerful? Why has Suri managed to make it this far in the game?
Why does Suri make it so far in every game of every show that she plays in? I think she is very clearly an incredible social player. She's also an incredible strategic player. And I think obviously that helps her a ton. Like people want to work with her because they like her, right? Like they feel like when they are talking to Suri, that they are talking to someone that is going to shoot it straight to them and that is going to be someone that they enjoy conversing with. Like you want to work with that, all right? I mean, in the games that you've played, you want to work with people that you like too,
It's true.
right?
It's true.
So I think people see that in Suri. And so I think as good as she is at the social side of the game, I think that helps her get far in these games. I also think that as bad as she is at the challenge and physical side of the game, also helps her get far, right? Like in these players' minds, they want to work with Suri and they figure that, hey, I could just take her out at 5 or 4. Like she's not going to win any of these challenges, or she's not going to beat me in fire or whatever it might be, right? I think that's the way these players view it. Like, will it shake out that way? Who's to say? I hope it doesn't. I'm rooting for Suri,
Oh
as I
yeah.
think so many are, right? But I do think that's the way that the players see it. And it's why she continually does such a great job at getting deep into these games, be it Survivor or anything else.
Yeah, I've loved watching Suri this season, man. I mean, we are just like so excellently showcasing what makes Suri Suri and why she does so good. She's basically in charge. I mean, literally, people are just taking marching orders. Even this episode, Jonathan's just going back and forth talking to Suri. Like, he's taking orders and then marching all the way back to the other beach. The power that she has over these people is awesome. And the amount of shots that we've gotten this season of her just looking like the Godfather, just like off to the side, like just looking intense. I mean, what a badass.
I was really worried about Suri this episode that, Emily and Rick's plan, as great as it was, I was worried that it would work, right? And that Suri would go home. What was I even worrying about? Like, of course Suri was going to clock what was going on and play like the best possible play for her. I mean, she always does. Like, I really gotta make sure that anytime I'm worried about Suri not clocking something in the future and making the best decision for her strategic gameplay, like, what are you even worrying about, Jake? Right? She's gonna do the right thing. She
Never
always
doubt Suri.
Yeah, exactly. She's amazing. And her play in this tribal council, I mean, if she didn't have it locked up before, if she makes it to final three, like obviously she does now, especially given how she got that extra vote, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting. Suri amazes me every single time I see her on my screen.
Yeah. And another thing, coming into the season, especially at the start, I thought the most iconic duo of the season would be Christian and Rick Devens, but I'm gonna make a bold swing here. Rick Devens and Emily is the chaotic duo that I love to see. Anytime the two of them are sitting next to each other, talking about any plan, they immediately swing into what is like the craziest thing we could possibly do. And I just love it. Seeing the two of them scheme together is so fun. And just watching them giggle, like they feel like evil like buddies. I just love it.
Yeah, they're like scenes of their machinations coming into play. And even if they like don't do it, they're like, yeah, what is the most insane thing that we can do for the fans, right? Like Jeff has been wanting this whole season to be for the fans. And Jeff, if you want what the fans want, it's more of Emily and Rick. Bring them back.
Yeah,
Even if Emily doesn't want
captains.
to come back. I bring her back anyway.
Okay, here's another question for you, Jake. Do you want to see the power broker advantage again in future seasons? Do you want this to be a new norm that they might turn to in the new era?
Um,
And let me
yeah,
present a fix here. What if they
yeah,
did
go
it
ahead.
earlier in the season, right?
Yeah,
When there's not as many people. I mean, maybe if you get like a 12-person merge and take this instead of mergatory, maybe with the double boot, like put it into that place, I think would be interesting.
yeah, I think that's it, right? Like do a merge at 13, right? And then do two tribes of six, right? Like if you have to have a split tribal council, I still want the numbers to be on the higher side
Right.
with that. And I do think that allows for some more maneuverability if these tribes are going to be random. And then obviously like still gives whoever is in that power broker position, the quote unquote swing vote potential. So, yeah, I do think I like the twist in if you're going to have a split tribal, like this is a fun way to do it. Um, but I would like to see it earlier with higher player count.
Yeah.
And I'd rather see like a normal final nine vote.
Yeah, especially because Final Nine, nine is such because 9 and 7, right? Like they usually tend to be these engaging, fun votes, and
Mhm.
that we definitely skipped out on. I would love to see the Power Broker replace the Mergatory. Because I want to see this happen a few more times because I feel like players will start to develop a different strategy around it, and that's just something I'm just so interested in. Before we kind of sign off here, I do want to know, do you have any other major predictions for 50 or just hopes? Like, what do you want to see play out for the rest of the season? I think we have two, maybe three episodes left.
Hold on. Before we move on, I'm just like thinking about this power broker advantage.
Yes, let's
Like,
do it.
maybe there's a world where someone has to go to both of these tribal councils, but they don't have the immunity necklace. And it's almost like a punishment slash advantage, if you will,
Mm,
right? It's I get to vote in both of these really important tribal councils, but I also have two chances to be voted out of the game. I don't know if there's something there. Obviously, I guess if they get voted out of the first tribal council, then they don't participate in the second one. I don't know. But
what about a floating advantage? You could be immune, but you have to pick which one you're immune at.
that could be interesting too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Anyways, you asked another
No,
question.
I like that, and I will say, if I kind of thought before coming into 50, there's always been some ideas when you look on Reddit. People have ideas of twists and stuff. I kind of thought that we had reached the ceiling of really engaging twists that you can do on Survivor, but 50 has showed me that there's endless things that we can still do to keep Survivor fresh that don't break the game. And just this conversation alone, I mean, we're bouncing around 5 different ways that you can tweak the power broker advantage, and it's been around for 1 week. I
I
think that Survivor has a lot left in the tank.
I totally agree. I think there are plenty of musical artists and celebrities that don't watch the show that you can name advantages after. So like Survivor's really got some untapped potential here. And I hope they use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, I have a question. Looking forward at season 51, we have heard rumors they're filming now that apparently they're jumping into two tribes of 10. How does that sound to you looking forward towards the new era? Does this spell good news in your opinion?
Yeah, thank God. I would love to see a return to two tribes be a regular thing. If only just because I like the larger tribal councils are great, but also I do think that it provides Survivor the opportunity to return to some more interesting reward and immunity challenges. Like right now with the three tribe format, like you kind of have to do the obstacle course puzzle thing a lot because there's only just so many things you can do with three tribes, right? And when if it's two tribes, it really opens the door to some more of like the interesting challenges that we've seen over the course of Survivor that we'd love to see come back. So I hope that they do move to two tribes, not every season, right? But most of them, and I hope that spells the return of some more disparate immunity challenges come 51 and beyond.
It'll be interesting for sure. And I don't think that two tribes is like necessarily the like better version than three, but after getting three tribes so many times, this is a breath of fresh air. I'm so excited to see how it plays out. I'm interested to see how many, if any, of these season 50 twists that they're going to bring into season 51. And these players, I presume they've seen a few episodes of season 50, but they will not have seen this advantage, for example, the power broker advantage. So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, things that they bring into the new era and how these players who will not have seen it, react to it as well.
Yeah, I hope they keep a few around, right? I don't want to see, even though it worked out like as good as it could possibly work out. I do not want to see people flipping a coin at tribal council
Hmm.
for safety and an immunity idol, right? Like amazing moment, like one of the best tribal councils in a long time. Super exciting. You know, Mileage on Mr. Beast may vary, but like I thought it was incredible the way it worked out, but it could have turned out so badly,
I
Darius.
know. The
Like
worst case scenario is like, I don't know, like I guess Sari goes home because they had to draw rocks on who flips the coin, and then she just goes home and it's
yes.
$1 million and we just out a Sari and we all hate Mr. Beast forever. Like
I mean, I just like the even thought of that being like a very real possibility is crazy to me. I host Survivor Orlando, which is, considerably less important than the real deal. And I would never put in something like that to like screw over a player. Like, oh man, that would have been just so brutal. So, yes, I think there are things that I would like to see return from season 50. I think there's been some fun new twists, new ideas, and there's a lot that I hope they leave in the rearview mirror.
yes, well, that is pretty much going to bring us to a close here, Jake. I did remember my question from earlier, and that was, um, move for the rest of the season. What do you hope is the outcome, or what are you predicting to see? What do you want to see? Make your proclamation here, and we will hold you to it if you're right or wrong later on. So this is your public decree.
My hope is that I get to watch both Suri and Rizzo on my screen, along with Rick Devens for the remainder of the episodes. The more I can see of them, the better. I will be happy. Um, my prediction is that I think Aubrey is in a really good place at this point to make it far. Like I don't think that people are going to be targeting her, and I don't know if that's because they don't see her as a threat, but I have a hard time seeing her get voted out from here on out in the game. So I think she's in the final three. I don't think people respect Joe's game, right? And so I think that at this point, it's, oh, we can put up working with Joe, even though he's a difficult obstacle and a little bit annoying to play with, right? Like I can put up with him for the 4 days that remain or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have a tough time seeing Joe get voted out. That third spot, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I think I lean towards it being Rizzo for almost a somewhat similar reason to Joe, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't think that people obviously haven't seen 49. I don't think they necessarily respect his game a ton. I think it'll either be Rizzo or maybe Jonathan. I don't know. I don't know. It could go so many different directions, but that's kind of my thought process at this point. I do think people are going to target Suri and Rick and that they're not going to have a chance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on the money, and I wasn't really thinking about Rizzo as a guaranteed final three, but there is definitely a path there. If Rizzo's in the final three, he has Suri and Ozzy and D. Let's not forget about D. They do have a connection. Maybe Rizzo could pull it out. I'm not out on the Riz God taking the whole thing.
And we know that D is the mayor of Ponderosa, right? We've seen over the course of Survivor that the first person that hits the jury, right, does have the person that they vote for usually wins, right? So yeah, if D has seen Rizzo's game and respects him and can vouch for him at Ponderosa, it makes a big difference. I didn't even bring up Tiffany, who despite the immunity challenge shenanigans of this episode, I think has earned a lot of respect from the players is the gauge that I get. And I think a lot of people really like her. And so for that reason, I don't think they'll let her get to the end either. So yeah, that's kind of my take. I think it'll be Aubrey and Joe, and then either Rizzo or Jonathan. We'll have to see how it shakes out. I'd like to see a different final three, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, that's right. Well, we there's still plenty of game left to be played, and so I cannot wait to see how it all shakes out. As I mentioned earlier, Jake is the host and creator of Survivor Orlando. I did have the honor of competing on season 5. It has not aired yet, but if you follow both of our socials, which will be up on the screen right now, you'll be sure to see all that when it starts airing here on YouTube. Jake, is there anything else that you have to say for our massive audience back home?
Yeah, I have just really appreciated getting the chance to talk Survivor 50 with you, Darius. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, check out Survivor Orlando. We're doing some fun things over there. And I'm working so hard on these episodes, man. It's so much footage and so much editing, but it's turning out really good. So I can't wait for everybody to see it when I'm finally done. And yeah, just thanks again for having me on.
All right. Well, that has been another episode of the Survivor podcast. Jake, thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and check out TikTok and stay tuned. Hit subscribe here on YouTube to see all of our content moving forward. All right. We'll see you in the next video.